All right, guys. So I have a special treat today. I have Ralph Williams here on the show. He is the CEO of Sales Solve Everything. Ralph has done it all in this industry. He's been a division president, he's been a VP of sales, he's been a sales counselor. His company that he founded, I'm going to let him talk about it here in a second, but they work with builders all across the nation of all different sizes with sales training. They manage sales teams, they do it all. So we're going to pick his brain today about what's going on in the new home builder market. So welcome, Ralph, to the show today.
Hey, thank you for having me, Stephanie. I'm excited to be here. I love following your show. You're so cool. You got the glam life going. I want to be like you someday.
Thank you. Well, you're in your Park Cities house right now. I'm seeing it in the background, so I'm
I
super
don't know. This
jealous.
could be virtual background. No,
so,
I'm very blessed. You're very right.
so we are here. We are in the beginning of 2021, and in general, the housing market's been pretty good, but oh my gosh, wheels off here lately, especially in the Dallas-Fort Worth market. But I know you cover the entire nation, so I wanted to just get your thoughts on what's going on in the housing market specific to new home builders, and then really talk to our sales counselors about what they're seeing, what they're experiencing, and maybe some things they can be doing to take advantage of the situation that they're in right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you said in Dallas Fort Worth. I think almost all the major markets are going crazy, right? I think Dallas Fort Worth is one of the most blessed of all. But everywhere I go, I mean, it's a shortage of inventory, it's low interest rates, and there's people buying houses left and right. I've been in this business a long time. I had hair when I started stuff, just like you, and and I'm going to tell you right now, I don't know that I've ever seen it like this. Even though we had a big run in like 2006, 7, 8, but I think we're past that, and there's different constraints and things that are happening. So it's pretty amazing what's happening out there. We're all very blessed right now for sure.
So one of the things I like to bring on the show is there's an awful lot of sales happening. And we talked about this kind of the pregame show that we wanted to kind of figure out what we were talking about today and the message. But I also see a lot of frustration when I go to the sales office because we are selling so many homes and now we have governors and we have restrictions and we have land that's not ready. And sales counselors are kind of like, oh my gosh, what's going on? What do I do? I've got a waiting list. And I thought it would just be good to talk about that because I think even though things are really good, we have a new set of quote unquote problems or challenges, but there's also opportunity and really talking about what that opportunity is, how long we think this is going to last, and how we can really benefit from what's going on versus just looking at what may seem like some of the negatives right now.
Yeah, it's easy to go to the negative, isn't it? Especially, if you're in the sales office and you're by yourself for a few hours or a day or whatever it is. And, it's easy to go negative. But with obstacles come opportunity, Stephanie. So when you think about it, when there are governors in place and restrictions on how many we can sell and then we raise prices and how many we can sell. And then you got to think of what's the opportunity there and what can we do differently? Because, we've been very blessed. I think, we're good. Okay. We're all good. And I'm not saying we're not, but we might've rose with the tide a little bit, in the last 6 months, 8 months. And we sold more than we probably normally would have for sure. That's what my opinion would be. And so maybe we've sold up into the future, and you got to kind of think that way is your backlog is really big right now. So that's a pretty positive thing is having these big backlogs, don't you think?
Totally. And I will say, that's one of the things I ask my sales counselors. I'm like, well, what do you have on the books for this year? And they're like, oh, way more than I ever have. But
Yeah.
they're looking at it like, but I want to sell more this month, or what about next year? And so, yeah, totally.
Well, sales is a drug, right? The good salespeople, and I don't do drugs, but I'm telling you right now, a sale is a drug for us.
Absolutely. Yep.
Right? And so we get these highs from getting a sale. And so it's not always the money, right? The salespeople are looking for. They need that, like, I sold a house and I changed somebody's life. But to me, I think when you're going into this year, you got to look at it a little bit differently because of the bumpers that are kind of on. And I get why the bumper. See, think about it this way. We had this funnel, okay? And we filled it up probably in July with all the things, or maybe even in June. But then let's say we could only build 10 houses a month or 20 houses a month, but we're selling 30, right? So every month we're going behind 10, 20. So we got this backlog and it's crazy, right? So I think we have to look at it and say, okay, how do I take advantage of this opportunity of this large backlog? So here's where I think as a sales professional, you turn it up a notch, or you can go sideways when the market goes sideways, right? Or turns down. We got to build the relationships. We got to be positive, and we got to be proactive with our prospects. You see, right now, our customers that have purchased houses, they're feeling the pain too, right? Their houses probably aren't starting as quickly as they used to. Maybe the time of build is extending now. Maybe it was 4 months, it's 6 months, now it's 8 months or 10 months or 12, right? So all these expectations are going on, and buyers are getting nervous too, right? So, I think we have to be proactive weekly. I know this is, we talk about the fundamentals in this business, and one of them is a positive, proactive call to your customer every single week, whether you have good news, not so good news, or bad, and just being transparent. And that communication says they're paying attention to me.
Right.
Where it gets hard, Steph, and I know because I have to make difficult calls too, is when we don't make those calls for a week or 2 or 3 and the house still hasn't started, or maybe the slab was there and the frame pack still hasn't made it there, and we get a call from our customer, what's going on with my house? The other house is going up before mine, and I bought mine before theirs. And like, that only happens usually if we're not proactive communicating with our customers weekly. And I think because we've been so busy making sales, we forgot about sometimes our customers. I hate to say that, but I think that's
Right.
true.
Well, and
The other,
I think you're right about that, because think about when you go into a store. If someone acknowledges you and you walk in, but they're busy and they say, "Hey, thanks for coming in. I'll be right with you. Let me finish this up," ringing her up. No problem. But how do you feel when you walk into a store and nobody really greets you? Like, they're busy, but you still aren't acknowledged. I feel a
right,
lot different about that experience.
for sure. And even having empathy with our customers, like, I'm not saying agree with them, like, I know we're taking too long to start. That's the wrong
Right.
answer.
Right.
But I'm sorry that we're in this situation. I'm sorry that it's taken longer than we wish. It would go faster too. And here's some of the reasons why. But to have a empathy with customers is really important. To say you're sorry, it's okay. I think once you say, I'm sorry that this is taking longer, I wish we could get you in your home quicker, just like everybody else. That's what our goal is. Then I think they go, okay, you're human, right? But
Mhm.
if you say, well, it's COVID and everybody has to deal with it, and you're going to have to deal with it too, that's not going to get you anywhere. And
Right.
so when I go back to what are the opportunities this year, have you ever heard of John Lang Homes out of Newport Beach? They're gone away they sold in 2008 for $1 billion, the first private home building company, and the guy's name was Larry Webb. And I went to a conference, and he talked about customer satisfaction, and he said, I love building homes for people. And I go, what's your secret, like, of your high customer satisfaction scores? His scores were like 98% would recommend, and like the highest in the country by far. And he said, well, we want time to build a relationship. And you know that I prefer a build job over like an inventory or spec, because I don't get that time. But he goes, because we concentrate on creating that great experience and being proactive and doing cool little things here and there, we average over 6 referral sales for every build job we get. And when you
Wow.
think about that, to me, that's our opportunity. We have this backlog of so many families that we're helping. How can we create this amazing experience for them where they want to go out and tell everybody, if you're going to buy a home, you better buy it with Stephanie. Like,
Right.
she's awesome. We hear from her every week. And then they say, Gail, I bought a house, but I don't, like, I'm wondering when my house is going to start. And, that's the reality. So there's 2 things that are going to happen. Are you going to be the person that creates these great relationships with your customers, and you're really on top of your game and you're going above and beyond and working really hard? Or are you just going to let these things close, and they're going to say, you know what, if you buy a house, just don't buy it with, Steve, right? That's not, he never called me back. And,
Right.
and those builders have that opportunity. Like, think about that. A referred customer doesn't negotiate as much. They're easier in the process because they already believe you're good. Their friend or family told them Stephanie was great.
Right.
It's the exact opposite when you have somebody that says they really dropped the ball. They didn't pay attention. They took longer to build. They tried to charge me more. I locked in my rate and it expired and they wouldn't pay for it. It's crazy, the separator that we're going to see this year.
Yeah. And
That
I
makes
think
sense.
totally, no, it totally makes sense. And I think that positive energy, right? Like, you get to work, there may be changes in what you can sell and how many, but using that time and energy instead of being frustrated or annoyed or worried about it, you're making positive movement, which is just going to be better down the road.
Right. Well, I think that's perfectly said. Terry Roy, do you know Terry? I'm sure.
That name's really familiar.
Terry,
Oh yeah.
yeah. What's her? Anyway, so Terry always had this saying that I loved. It
I think
says,
I know her by Terry Clark, right?
Terry Clark. That's right. Yeah, that's right. So what's great about her, and I always remember that she was a sales professional for me. I hired her in the business,
Yeah.
and what was always cool. She goes, "When I'm at work, Ralph, I'm at work. Like I spend all my day doing positive things that are going to affect my business in the future in a positive way." And I'm like, I know that sounds simple, but I know how many times I've gone into model homes and seen somebody just sitting there and doing nothing
Yeah.
and or on the phone with a friend or like so we have a choice to make, right? And I love what she said. It always stuck with me because it's so simple but so profound, right? So when you're at work, like you said, what are the next steps that I can do to actually increase my value, increase my company's value, increase what we do to our customers?
Right. Yeah, because when I was in the business, I mean, we had internet, but it wasn't like I don't even think we had Facebook back then. I mean, you really couldn't do much when
Don't
you.
age
I mean, I would bring a book sometimes, but
I know, I know. Well, hey, on relationship, can I go back to there too? Because I
Mhm.
talked about relationships with our customers, but I want the salespeople that are watching this show to think about this. We as the sales professionals, we make the most money.
Yeah.
Like, we do, right? And we've had a great year. And so when we sell houses, we make money. When we sell houses on the other side, the builder department, your building team, and your corporate, they see more work,
Right.
right? They see more stress, more pressure, and they don't see those big commission checks that we get, right? So I think this is another opportunity because I felt it out there. I've worked with enough teams to see a little bit of, I don't know if it's jealousy, but it's maybe like just tension, like, wow, I
Friction.
can't believe this person, yeah, friction that they're making 300,000. I work harder than them. And we, it's so easy to sell a house. And believe me, it's not easy to sell a house. Like, let's all sit in each other's shoes for a day, both sides. But it's easy from the outside when you're looking above or when you're on the building team, say, God, I can't believe I don't make that much. I get up early. I'm on the job site at 6 o'clock. I don't leave till 8 o'clock at night. I don't see my family, blah, blah, blah. And I make X dollars, way less than Johnny, right? And same with corporate, right? Let's just call it 9 to 5. And
Sure.
I'm just saying an average, but like they don't want more work than that. I mean, they have to do more work and stay longer. That's not on their agenda in general, right?
Right.
So I think it's our opportunity this year. Take your builder lunch. You know, treat the office. Say, I really appreciate all the hard work that you do for us, and count our blessings that they're processing all the paperwork. Because without them, we don't have commission checks either, right? We have to build them as well. If we build them, they will come. Well, it's kind of the same thing. We can sell them, but somebody still has to build them. So
Right.
I think we need to take those opportunities and strengthen our internal relationships and also expand on our realtor relationships. Because if you think about this, when this market goes, let's just say it's not going to keep at this breakneck pace forever.
Right.
Don't we want to have these great relationships with top producing realtors that think of us as somebody gets into them that might match what we have to sell?
Mhm.
And so it's our opportunity. If you have a little extra time, go have a coffee with them, have them come in for lunch, treat them, do something nice, buy them a book, right? And talk about, like, I saw this book for you, I thought you'd be good, or I saw this podcast. Stephanie Lindamood, she's this glam girl, she's so positive. I'm sending you this, I'm going to share her podcast with you so you can take a listen because it's great and it made me feel good and I want you to feel good too. I
Yeah.
mean, shouldn't we be doing that?
Yeah. No, I love it. I love it because I think so. I'll share a little bit about my story. I don't even know if you know this. So, if you guys are in the business at the end of '08 was a really rough year in real estate. And I was in new home sales and I was driving about 70 miles one way to my office and gas was crazy to the roof. And they actually stopped building inventory homes. They stopped letting us do contingencies. And that was 90% of my business. Like build jobs, we didn't do a lot of those back then.
Yeah.
So at the time, I was so frustrated. I was driving like an hour and a half away. Road construction it was just a nightmare. So I quit. I decided to leave. I resigned. I went to another builder because I thought the grass was greener. And it was the biggest mistake I could make at the time because I joined this other builder 2 weeks later, Lehman Brothers collapsed. And then 2 months later, all 5 of us that got hired in that same hiring pool, we got laid off along with a lot of other people, not because we were bad salespeople. It just, they couldn't support us and there was nothing to sell. And so what I always tell people is, look, I know it can be frustrating. I know what it's like to be in a really, what you think is a bad situation. I was still making 6 figures. All I
Right.
literally had to do was close out my business and go to work every day and frankly read a book or do something positive if no one was going to walk in.
Yeah.
But I was a lot younger. I was frustrated. I thought I needed to sell 5 a month and I didn't have the presence of mind to go, this year and next year could be an average, right?
Right.
So I
Right.
make exit income. Like in my mind, it was linear. It had to be like, well, this year I'm kind of like if when I was in retail management, right? Every day you wanted to beat last year's sales. Every day. It didn't matter if today was a Monday after Christmas and the last year the same day was Christmas Eve, right? Like it didn't matter. We had to beat last year's numbers. And so in my mind, every year I had to make more money come hell or high water. Otherwise it was a reflection of me. And so, if I can just be vulnerable and tell you guys, hey, I know some things can be frustrating. It doesn't mean that the grass isn't always greener, but normally when we're in a market, and I wouldn't say shift, even though it's just an odd time. If you've got a reputation where you're at, if you've got management that you get along with, if you've got backlog, I would stay where you're at and I would just
Of
get
course.
happy
Yeah,
and
stay the course. The grass is not always greener. And I love that you said, take a little bit of a different mindset shift because we've piled up the sales. Okay.
right,
Take 20 of those off and put them next year and know what's going to happen. It's not that we don't, salespeople want sales. I get
right,
it. But we also look at the opportunity to grow those relationships, make sure you have happy customers,
right,
and it'll pay off for you big time in the future. But so okay, so you make 300,000 this year, and or last year, this year, and you make 200,000. That's 500,000, 250 a year. Cry me a river. I don't mean to say it in a bad way, but that's good money. Like
right.
you should be happy, and the grass isn't always green. I can tell you that right now. It's not. I see builders all over the place, and it's funny how you see a salesperson come from a different builder and said, "Oh, you guys got problems too, just like I had problems over
Exactly.
there." Like we all got some things that we got to work on. Where if sales aren't good, then we focus on sales. If construction, we focus on. But there's always something. If you like your people, you like your team, and it's a good fit. Work, stay the course,
Right.
right? It'll pay off for you. Work hard, stay the course, and build your book and know what it is. Going ahead. I think part of it is setting your mindset that it's okay that maybe next year you don't make 300, you make 200, and I'm just giving you an example,
Right.
right? You got to set your mindset, not that we don't want to be achievers like salespeople, like we want the sale, we want to win, we're competitive, and we want to make more money, right?
Right.
And it is not a direct reflection of you making 200 next year versus 300 this year. We were lucky enough to be a part of a tide, which was a crazy time that allowed us to sell more homes.
Right.
Interest rates were so low, inventory shortages. It was a perfect storm for that to occur. That doesn't happen all the time.
So then the moral to that is save your money because we don't know what's going to happen next year. We don't know happen in 5 years. What I would just say is, as sales counselors, hunker down a little bit because you never know. Because while we have this supply and demand kind of issue, we've got supply chain issues. Things may take 10 months to build versus 6. You're still going to close that business. It just may take a little bit longer, but I don't know. I think that if we can set expectations on the forefront, like when I meet with sellers that are buying new construction, we're having the conversation like, okay, it's January. You're probably not going to move until October. Like, what does that look like for you? Like,
Right.
what do we need to talk about this year? What are variables that we're going to see this year in the market? And I still got to figure out, are foreclosures going to rise? What happens with forbearance programs when those things come up? I think it's still too early until we get the inauguration over with and we get kind of everybody in different positions to figure out how that even lands. But I think there's going to be other variables to the markets that we haven't seen before, and we've got to figure that out. So if you can just save your money, that way you don't have that stressor with commissions. You've got some flexibility in your budget. That takes a lot of stress out when you're in commission sales.
Well, I was going to say it's probably the class I would love to teach, and we were going to do a pro class on it, but we didn't get enough like people interested in the financial aspect of it. But to me, like if I was a good steward of the industry, just like you're saying, I would say save 20% of your money, save 25% of your money, and it's hard because as salespeople, we almost say, okay, we got 10,000 this month, we're going to spend 10,000, like, and we have nothing left at the end of the month. And then when the market slows down a little bit, we're like, like
Right.
it's, and our backlogs dried up, and you're like, oh, it's funny if you look at, like, you talk about 2008 and the difficulties, and we're in Dallas Fort Worth. I was with a home builder, in the year before, in 2007, we did 1,000 net sales. 1,000, like, a lot, right? That's a lot. And we had 45 communities, and I remember when 2008 hit. I think it was the third quarter going into the fourth quarter. We went from averaging 80 to 100 sales a month, like net sales, to in the quarter, Stephanie, we had 2 net sales out of 45 communities.
That's when I got laid off.
I see. That's
Yes.
but I'm saying, like, and nobody.
It was awful.
You had to shrink. Like, it just.
Yes.
So, and that didn't mean you weren't a superstar sales professional.
Right. It
That
was
just
horrible.
like,
The market. It
caught on
was
the tide on the other side too, right?
right.
So save your money. I've always been proud of you. You and Leroy have always been. I've worked with your husband for a long time, for many years, and you've always been savers, in my opinion. Like, you're saving, and it's paying off for you, right? Because then it gives you that flexibility and the freedom to have choice and sleep at night and invest for the future. But if we spend everything we make, it's going to run out at some point. I promise you.
Yeah. So what are some scripts, or is there anything specifically that you want to talk about to the audience about setting expectations, whether it's having the hard conversations about material costs going up? Like, what if you got a client that, or sales counselor, it's like, hey, I've got clients that walked in 2 months ago. I had to put them on a list, or maybe they didn't buy. Now they're coming in 60 days later and prices have changed, incentives have changed. How do I, with confidence, still try to capture that sale?
It's hard, isn't it? I think that's difficult. I mean, when you think about it, depending on how much it's gone up, let's say it's gone up maybe 10,000 or 15,000, right? There's a swing. But material costs, I guarantee you, went up that much. So it's kind of weird because it's a cutting edge store. When you have low interest rates, it creates this frenzy in the low payment and the affordability. And but you also are going to have escalation in price, right? So the good news is, like, you got to decide what story you're going to tell. But let's say they come back and 2 months later and the price has gone up 10 grand. Then, that's when you have to use your interest rate. Well, this is our historic low in interest rates. I used to say $5 per thousand is finance, but now it's 4, really, like, with
Yeah.
the
That's what I
way
used to tell
they
them.
are. So your payment's gone up $40 a month.
Right.
And what you need to, understand, Mr. Prospect, basically, that haven't purchased, is, we're going to have a price increase on the first, and that's going to be somewhere between 5 and 10,000. So if either A, you have 5 or 10,000 in equity going forward, how would that make you feel? Or B, you make the decision to wait again, like you did last time, and now you're 10 or 5 or 10 grand higher than what it was before, and it becomes harder to make a decision to buy. Right. So at some point you got to say, like, you got to make a decision. And I think a lot of buyers see it or feel it when they've made an offer on a house. Maybe it was a low ball offer, or maybe it was lower and they didn't get it. And then the next time something came on the market, they didn't quite lowball it as much. They said, okay, I'll pay the price. Like, I just want the house. It's kind of the same mentality. We shouldn't be defensive. And I think that's kind of what happens, is we naturally want to be defensive and feel sorry for them. We should take the other side of the coin and say, hey, the great opportunity is interest rates are still low. Prices are continuing to rise. Wouldn't you like to take part in all this appreciation that's occurring? Why don't we go ahead and sit down and look at the paperwork right now, move forward, and then you could be a part of this too. Doesn't that sound good? Like, you gotta go to the other side. We can't, you can't be on the ship is sailed side.
Right.
You got to be on like, there's more room on this horizon. If you would have bought a year ago, it would be X dollars. You don't want to look back a year ago, because then it's going to be too hard to buy. Right? Have you ever bought
Right.
something like a year earlier, and a year later it's like 100
Yeah.
grand more or 75 grand more, and you said, I'm sure glad I bought it then, because right now that would make it hard to buy,
Totally.
right?
What would you
So
say to somebody, whether it's a sales counselor or a client that is either curious or maybe even questioning the construction costs? Is it legitimate? Is it even salespeople? I think sometimes think the builders are just marking prices up, frankly, because they can, or they're trying to take advantage of the market and they're quote unquote getting greedy. How would you characterize that, and how would you explain that to a sales counselor and or a client to kind of help them understand where this is coming from?
So I think it has to be more than just our lips moving, Stephanie, and us saying costs are going up, right?
Sure.
Because they're going to say you're lying, right?
Right.
Or that's self-serving.
Right.
What
You're
we
just
have,
trying to close me. Yeah.
yeah, you're just trying to close me.
Right.
They've seen it all before, and unfortunately, what we have to use is third-party material. Get information that shows lumber. Like lumber has doubled since August. It's doubled. Like a frame pack that was 50 grand is now 100,000. Like no joke. Like
That's a fact. It's like it's 40 degrees outside. Like it's not, we're
it's
not here to
exactly.
argue. Here you go. Yeah.
You can look it up anywhere you want, the lumber pricing index, and you can see what it is. And if it's gone double, whatever it was before, it's double that number. Like, and the supply and demand is also what's forcing prices up, right? So,
Right.
when you have a little less lumber and only so much to deliver, you're going to get that bid up, right? So it is an interesting time. I don't think builders are. Um, I think if builders had their way, Stephanie, they would save the pricing until the very end and
Yeah.
just said whatever it was, and we mark it up and we make X percentage, that would be the price we pay. It's just not the world we live in. Because if you think about it from a builder's perspective, if they sold a house in August, right, and they didn't buy that frame pack, and it's gone from 50 to 100,000, and they made 50 gross profit, now they got to buy a frame pack that's 50,000. They just built a house for free, like
Right.
with no profit. So it is real, and you can look at any materials from brick to windows to flooring to the gravel mines. The supply chains definitely have caused this increase, right? So I would explain it like we're in this market. It's crazy, but it's a good thing. Interest rates are low, and I would take advantage of what we got now because we don't see it going down. Like even with lumber stuff, like I talked to all my the owners of my building, the companies I work with, and smart guys like
Yeah.
uh, some of the same guys. They don't think lumber's coming down. Like they think this is the new normal for lumber. Like
Because the demand. So I'm assuming it's we're out of COVID then at that point. It's more just the demand and where are at in the market as far as status quo.
exactly of how much lumber can be delivered and how many homes are going to be based on how many people are buying homes and the growth of what we have. So it just might be the new normal. And
Mhm.
so I think that a lot of times people say, I'm going to wait till the market comes back or until lumber goes down. And that's like, I don't know, that's a crazy, it's like you can't catch the stock market before it goes up. And as soon as you try to catch it and you think you've missed the boat and you buy, then maybe it goes down. Like you can't,
Right. You can't time it.
you
Yeah.
can't time it, right? And so if you're going to be in the house, like I always say this, if you're going to be in the house for 5 years or more, you're going to do great. Great. There's
Yeah.
not too many times in this last 100 years that you can find 5 years where you didn't make a profit. There's a
Right.
couple, right? But not too many. Not
Yeah.
too many. If you're going to be in there a year or two, or you're going to be speculative, I would caution that buyer
Yeah. Well,
because
and
there's
yeah.
somebody selling it, right?
Exactly. Exactly. Especially when you have the fees and everything. So no, I think this is great insight for if you're a sales counselor listening and you're trying to figure out how to manage the next 6 to 12 months. It is a part of it. I think is just calling it what it is. It just is what it is. It's a different time. We've got some areas where we've got some opportunity. If you're working on personal growth, if you've got some extra time and you want to build relationships with your clients, set expectations. Maybe you need to work on some systems and processes for yourself. Maybe get more organized. This would be the time to do it. Work on your follow up emails, work on your nurture sequence. If you have a waiting list, are you emailing that list every 2 weeks? Do you have them in your CRM to where it's easy to just send them a quick email or text or something like that? And I know for salespeople, they're like cringing right now, going, "Oh, I don't want to do all that admin work." You've got to have something to keep you busy and feeling like you're making positive progress.
I'm changing my spot stuff because I got the sun like
Oh no, you're fine.
blasting in on me. Let's see. Maybe I can scoot it down a little. I don't know. Let's see. Maybe there's a little shade right here.
And
All
one
right.
thing I want to talk about with that
Yeah.
is Ralph and his team. at Sell Solve Everything. They do live events, they help manage teams. They also have sales education, they have sales bites. So I want you to talk about things that you offer for sales teams, management, and then
Yep.
some of your events that you've got coming up.
Yeah, so last year was unique, right? Everybody had the COVID. We experienced the same thing. We did a lot of our business at live events, and we did I think one event in January or February, and then it was over. Zero live events the rest of the year. We couldn't do any, so they became virtual. We are doing our first live event though, sales school. We have a room big enough to hold 30 people in this big area, and we're doing one of our schools, our 3-day comp schools.
Mhm.
We've had over, I don't know if you know this, but it's pretty cool. We've had over 2,000 people attend our schools.
And I'm
And
one of those. I was in one of those
I love
pro
it.
classes, as
I
well
love
as my husband. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's so cool, and they're fun, right? They're
Yeah.
interactive, and I would highly recommend, like, if you're new or if you want a refresher, to go to the comp school. It's a 3-day, basically start to finish on new home sales, and we're going to do that in January, at the end of January. I think it's the 28th, 29th, and 30th. But you can look on our website,
Okay.
salescom, and we're going to do 2 live events of the comp school, and we're also going to do a couple pro events, and that's like where you went and your husband and all these top pros that are crushing it this year. And one thing I knew about pros is they love working with other pros, and like like, I know everybody hates the word role play,
Yeah.
but there's a lot of role play and like going back and forth, and they come out and they're pumped up. Like,
It's
I'm
really good energy. I will tell you. I mean, because I know the seasoned professionals out there are kind of like, I don't need training.
right.
You're going to take away something, not because you don't know what you're doing, but you're going to forget something, or you're going to learn something or hear something and incorporate it as your own. And it's going to be great.
It'll change your how much you make. Like,
Right.
everybody that goes to that pro class, they want to go to more pro classes. And our pro classes, we have people, like what you said, we're nationwide. We have people from Seattle, Washington, New York, New Jersey, Florida, all these people converging that are doing 20, 30, 40 million. They're big producers, and they're ahead of their curve, and you're learning from them. I would say I'm a great facilitator, and you're probably not going to learn much from me, Steph, but you're going to learn a heck of a lot from all these other pros, because it's really cool in the relationships. You get to be with like-minded people,
Yeah.
and that are really pushing themselves to be better and better all the time. So we have those. The other thing that I think is really great, that's really done well during this environment for COVID, is our online sales training. We're the only one that has a really complete library. It's 60 modules, and they can buy those on our website too. And it basically teaches you new home sales, and there's pro level sales bites, we call them, and they're called online sales bites. And it's a game changer too. Like you just said, those also refresh you, right? So we don't when we don't use something all the time, we use it periodically, we forget. But when you watch these sales bites, I have pros all the time say, God, I watched this one and I thought I've watched it 2 times before, but I, I, I got this out of it. And I just made a sale yesterday because I did that. Like, the next day, I'm like, I love this, right? And so I love that product that we have. But we're going to be with you. We manage teams across the country. And that's exciting, because they're usually small to medium teams, anywhere from 3 to 12 salespeople. And so we get to, we're the sales director, we're the sales leader, the sales coach. We negotiate deals. So, one thing that's good about our company is we're hands on. Like, we know, like, there's been 3 or 4 text messages negotiating deals right now on my text, right, that I'm waiting for. And so we're right there in the field with everybody else.
One thing, I know it's going to sound a little random, but one thing they do really well too in their training is they help teach you how to run numbers for your clients on the mortgage calculator app. Because with the pricing increases, even if you're a veteran, you're going to have people coming in, even if they don't say it, they're trying to figure out what that price increase has done to their ability to afford your home.
Yep.
And $10,000, I've seen $50,000 price increases, which is a lot of money. Don't get me wrong, but when you can articulate to your clients in an, like Ralph was saying, having empathy, because money is money. But hey, guys, over the course of 30 years, I know you don't want to pay an extra $50,000, but what does that really mean for you and your family? It means your payment's going to change $200 a month.
Right. Well,
Now, that could be a game changer, but for a lot of people, that just helps level set and go, Okay, yeah, I don't want to pay an extra $200 a month if I don't have to, but $50,000 sounds totally different than $200 a month. And you guys being able to teach a salesperson how to run numbers, how to include property taxes and insurance,
Yep.
and how to run all the different scenarios on their phone and have confidence, I think is huge because salespeople, you've got the ability to spend more time with those clients. Do it. Don't wait on the loan officer and don't depend on them to have those conversations because they're swamped with pre-quals right now.
Right. So they're not calling back as quick, right? So because they're swamped. And if you know the numbers, then they feel comfortable to buy. If they don't feel comfortable with the numbers, and we're assuming like it's a $500,000 house, they know the numbers, blah, 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 blah. They walk out not knowing. That's not what they do all the time. But because they don't want to buy something that they don't know that they can afford.
Right.
Right. And so it's our job to really empower them. And in our pro class on the finance side, I don't know if you were, I think you were in that one, but what's just to take that one example, and there's probably 20 different examples I give you how to look at it a little bit differently. But let's say it was your price went up $200 a month. Let's just say that, right?
Mhm.
And so they're going to be in their house for 5 years. So let's just say 200 times 12 is $2,400 a year, right? And times five. What is that, Stephanie? I don't even know. It's
If it was
that's
25 a year, that'd be 125. So
7 grand.
yeah.
So 7 grand that they're going to pay, that $200 a month over the 60 months, right? Is basically 7,000, 60 times two, 12,000.
That's
I
why we
don't
need a calculator.
I can't believe it. That's what we need to count. But think about this. So they lock in this house, right? And they're paying this 200. And so it's like if their house is going up in appreciation, like it has been, like a $500,000 house appreciated 50,000, right, in the last year. Let's say 10%, right?
Hmm.
So would you give me $200 a month, Stephanie, or $2,400? And at the end of that, my house went up 50,000. Will you give you give me 2,400? I'll give you 50,000.
Right.
Like that's what we're talking about. Like people are not looking at it in the right light. And they're saying, okay, maybe I got to spend a couple hundred more. Maybe that's my built-in savings account. But now I locked in this asset that's appreciating at 3 or 4% a year. Let's be conservative. So
Sure.
$500,000 house goes up 20 grand a year. 20 grand a year, Stephanie, is what? 1,500, 1,600 a month.
Yep.
But you're paying 200.
Right.
So your house goes up 1,600. You pay 200.
Right.
Who wouldn't do that? But
Right.
we don't even think to look at the numbers that way. So
Right.
we teach things a little bit differently.
Right.
Right?
Yep.
So
No, I
well,
love
I
it.
appreciate you bringing that up because it was fun, and I've loved watching like you grow and do so well. I mean, you crush it, and all these people. Like I get calls, and Jeff. I won't say the last name, but he sold like what 30 homes in a month, and he called me, and it was so cool because he goes, "Hey, I need coaching." I'm like, Jeff, you sold 30 homes this month. You really need coaching? He goes, but you taught me this, and I need you now to teach me how to manage the backlog. And you taught me
Right.
numbers, and I showed him all the payments. And so that learning that he did before
Right.
paid off now. You don't know when it's going to pay off, but he goes, I use payment with everybody, and I
Oh
use it.
yeah.
And like,
Yeah.
it's unbelievable. And so you see these lives change. That's what I get at our company. We really have a passion for helping people change their own lives because it's so fun. We get to watch these careers and people go from making 60 grand, 80 grand a year to making 3, 4, 500, 600, 700.
Right.
I'm like, holy moly.
Well, and the confidence because it's great that we're in a great market right now, but if the market when it changes because it always does, you have the confidence that it wasn't just the market that sold the homes.
That's right. You'll be, if you don't learn now, you'll be exposed later.
Exactly.
I
Exactly.
hate to
All
say that.
right. Well, I have 5 questions that I ask each guest at the end of the show.
Oh, geez. And I should know these questions, shouldn't I?
Yes, you should. So,
Yeah.
what's one thing that most people don't know about you?
Um, I was the state ping pong champion at the age of 10 for the boys club in the state of Washington. So don't challenge me in ping pong.
So, we could like nickname you Forrest.
Well, I mean, I maybe if I had more hair. Yes.
Love it. I never knew that. Okay. Okay. Question 2 is 2-part. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Oh, I think my dad, he's always talked to me about integrity and doing what you say you're going to do. And I think that's probably the best advice I've ever gotten. And I keep going back to that saying that I think I said earlier. that I always, when there are difficult times, obstacles always create opportunities. And so when there's something that's challenging us or difficult, that means there's a solution to that. There's something that we can do. So look for the opportunity. So I love that piece of advice. And the third, I'll give you one more, is
Yep.
always continue to learn and grow.
Love
Like
it.
I think that's just the mentality that, people that want to continue to do better and be better for themselves, whether it's monetarily or life balance or with their family, learn and grow. Like that's fun, right?
Yep.
Experience life.
Love it. Nope, I love it. Okay, question 3 is what's one of your favorite books or the one that's had the greatest impact on you? Or maybe something you're reading now that you love?
So I'll give you one that's been my go-to for years is Good to Great.
Okay.
That's an amazing book. But the one I'm really into now, and I'll tell you why. We have a couple builders that were using this book, and we started consulting with them and managing their teams.
Uh-huh.
But the book that I'm really into, and it's not my typical book because it's more structured. And I'm like, I'm not going to say I'm like you, but I am less structured. You're very detailed. I am the guy that I need help on that. But we're reading the book. It's called Traction,
Oh,
and
that's a good book. I
it's
love
a
it.
great, like, I think it's Gino Wickman, right? And I'm telling you, that's a book that our company has used over the last 6 months, and we're following it to the letter. Like I have an L10 coming up in 30 minutes, right? And so we have our rocks, and we have. But I
Yes.
would recommend Traction.
Is Rocket Fuel by the same person?
Yes, it's the second book in that
Okay.
series.
Okay, Rocket
Yeah,
Fuel is good too.
have you
I
read
love
that
it.
book?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, it's a
I
great
love it.
book, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's one of those it's like if you reread it because like you said earlier with the sales bites, you get something but depending on where your perspective is when you read it, you're going to get something different out of it.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
Very true. Okay.
What's your current morning routine?
Well, today I can tell you what I did. No, but I usually get up. I mean, I usually get up, go right to the coffee machine, get myself a cup of coffee, go to the shower, drink my coffee in the shower, trying to wake up. But maybe that's the routine you wanted. Like, but no, like today, I like to have a little bit of a breakfast. I like to listen to a little bit of a podcast just to get my brain going in the right direction. Today, I was fortunate enough to drive to the ski slopes, and I snowboarded from 9 to noon.
Hey,
Right.
that's exercise. I consider that exercise.
It is That's
That's
exactly what.
great. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's good exercise. So, but no, that's my general morning routine. I wish I could say more, but I'm more of the early guy. I like to get up a little early. I actually like to watch the sunrise, and I just find it peaceful. And
Nice.
I'm more morning than night.
Love it. Love it. And then last question, how do you unplug and unwind?
You're looking at it right here.
Yeah.
So I live in Dallas, Fort Worth, with my beautiful wife Darcy and my 3 kids. And but we built a house in Park City, Utah. And anytime I can get up here, like I travel a lot around the country, and so if I can ever like have a weekend to come up here and grill out and just look at the mountains and hike and snowboard or hit the golf ball around, that's what I like to do.
I think I'm seeing a sales counselor retreat here in the making. I think we should totally make that happen.
Oh, it's funny. I've when some of the teams that I work with, when they've hit their goals, like we had goals set up, like I let them come and use my house. And right now, I actually have a team I work with. The owner came and he snowboarded with me this morning. We're going to go snowboarding again tomorrow. But
Nice.
no, it's a to me, it's a I'm blessed to be able to do it, and but I like to share it. So uh, we are going to have a retreat. I didn't. This is a shameless plug, but
Totally. Go for it.
for sales managers and sales leaders this summer. We're working on the dates right now. I think it's the week of August 16th, something like that. It's for 3 days, 3 nights basically. And we're going to come up to my house in Park City. And then I have guides that are working on like kind of glam tent uh, experience. And so
Those are bad.
we're going to be
They're
out
bad.
in the nature, and we're going to have some life balance stuff. We're going to do some work, but we're going to have hikes, and we're going to be out in nature, some campfires, and really learn from each other. So that's going to be this summer, and that's going to be sales managers and sales leaders from different companies around the country.
Love it. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So if people want to get connected to you, if they want to call you or email or social about your programs and how you can help their teams, where can they find you on social and or email? What's the
So
best place?
social, we're on Facebook, Instagram, mainly Facebook, but I'm on LinkedIn.
Okay,
We're on LinkedIn as well. They can go to our website, salessolveeverything.com.
perfect.
They can call my personal cell or text me. Text is easier because I'm on a plane or training a lot. So text, I'll get back to you. And my personal cell number is 469 360 6392. And, if you have any questions or want to talk through something, you don't have to feel obligated that, we're going to charge you. Like, call me. You've known myself, my
Yeah.
Marsu, and my team, and we like to be there for everybody. And we believe our really models, if we give out, it'll come back to us. And we love to help people. So I'd love to hear from you, and I'd love to see one of our classes or going through our online sales bites or pro class or anything we can do to help. We'd love to.
Love it. Well, I'm so glad to hear you guys have pivoted in a sense of dealing with COVID because I know that's been hard on a lot of companies with the live events. So I'm glad that, and that may still be a mainstay that you keep, but I'm no, you're excited about getting to the live events as well and seeing the
It's,
faces.
yeah, I love the live events. There's
Yeah.
nothing better than seeing people's light bulbs go on in front of you, and you can kind of see it online, but you don't get that physical interaction, and the energy is good, but it's way better in person. So yeah,
Right.
if you can come, if you want to come to the school, we're only gonna have 2 live ones. Do that. And anyway, any question you have, give me a shout or a text, and I'll help you out.
Cool. Well, thanks for the conversation and your time today. I know you're super busy, but I think this was very timely and it was really helpful for a lot of the sales counselors and builder partners listening. So
Hey,
appreciate it.
thanks for all you do.